Oh, it's the Powder Keg Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the 23rd episode of the Powder Keg Podcast.
The show that sets the table for the dinner of improvement.
Yeah. So today,
Robin liked that one. Nice.
So savage. So today's podcast is talking about champion select. We're going to be discussing that later on in the podcast. So
Champion pool.
Jesus. So if you want to skip directly to that, there'll be a timestamp in the description of the video. And while you're clicking that timestamp, might as well click subscribe. Wink. And if you're listening to on SoundCloud, just click like.
Timestamps are also there below.
Yeah, they're also there.
And you can also like, yeah.
In the meantime, we're just going to have a bit of a chat about what's been going on this week in League of Legends.
Yes.
As we do every week. So, anything interesting, Andrew?
I guess biggest thing that happened this week on. Team Liquid, mighty Team Liquid, owners of fourth place, winners of games, buyers of lots of players in preseason, have this big stacked team that've been doing terribly. So
are they actually in fourth place at the moment?
Oh God, they're like last.
Oh dear.
So in order to remedy this problem, they've gone ahead and temporarily purchased the services of a one Mr. Doublelift.
Mr.
Double J Lift, as his name is. Yeah, Yen. So basically, he was on TSM. He kind of did this sort of half retirement thing, where he took a bit of a break.
Of Doublelift, and you're listening to the League of
Legends. It's a bit of context
video.
to him specifically. So he's gone over to. So he's playing for Team Liquid until the end of the season. Apparently, no longer. He's just staying for that long. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Team Liquid are going to be beasts now. Look at them on paper." I was like, "Okay, that's cool." So his first game he was playing, they were against C9. Right?
Yeah, Piglet's mid and all that as well.
Yeah, Piglet's gone mid, and then, so they've got Doublelift for AD carry. They're a really weird team, and they want to buy Adrian as well because Matt hasn't been playing well as a support, which is cool. I guess they just want to spend.
Poor Matt, like. I can't get over Matt after the Liquid video, the breaking point video, because he was the tragic, like, he just got shit on for the entire video by literally everyone in the video. And it wasn't like, because we talked about the video, we had a whole episode on the video actually, and we talked about like how Dardoch was put across in a bad light by management, and how, you know, certain members of the team, like the management, were put across in a good light. But like Matt was just put across as like the shit, like the dog that was just kicked. Like after every game, it was like, so Dardoch would come out and be like, so Matt like was shit this game, and the match would be like, Matt, you were shit this game, Matt. But that's not what we care about, Dardoch. Your attitude isn't good. It was like, and I was like, guys, I think we should be more than teammates. I think we should be friends.
That was the best bit. Guys, can we be like CLG, where they're all friends and no one's ever tilted?
But it was like,
it's like, Matt, it doesn't really work that way. I just wanted to, what do you mean, Matt? What do you mean? He's like, I just think we should all be really good friends, and also I want to be really good friends with Piglet so that we'll never tilt. It's like, Matt, it doesn't really work that way, man.
It wasn't like as like tragic, childish, like, I want to be friends with everyone.
He was pretty close.
I want the game to be a draw. Like, it wasn't like quite, no, I mean, in all fairness, he was kind of like, because he was getting like kicked around by everyone after every game, and everyone was like, Matt, you suck. But that's okay, Matt, because we're all focusing on improvement in our attitudes. And he was like, well, guys, I think we need to like go out, we need to hang out outside the game, I think we need to have a bit of fun. And he just got like just put down. Like Dardoch was like, Matt, like the maw of hell open. Dardoch.
Yeah, this isn't about Matt. No, this is the Doublelift episode. No one cares about Matt. Okay.
He's so sorry.
His name is Matt. Okay, we're talking about.
He's been living in that like how. I mean, I guess Dardoch.
He's literally a support player whose name is Matt.
But Piglet
no one cares.
Piglet
about
as well
him.
would be like and Piglet was seen in the video as like the positive guy, and he was also just like Matt, he's so shit. Matt is so shit, and like
it's a Korean accent.
I was just trying to deal with like a different. Come on, I was just sitting here.
You're trying. That's what matters.
Yeah, and Matt was just like, guys, we're just.
So, yeah, he hasn't been doing too hot. But anyway, so they want to buy Adrian instead. Basically, one upshot is Team Liquid have a lot of money to throw around because the prospect of relegation is very real, and that is monetarily a complete disaster. So you might as well splash the cash, get these players, splash the cash, get the players while you can. But it's kind of interesting because obviously we can. There's a bit of egg on our face because we said repeatedly. I certainly said that I didn't see any kind of logical reason for Double to come out of his kind of streaming retirement, because once you get the good life of streaming and not being under scrutiny, not having people analysing, making all this money, just by sitting at home playing games, like why would you go back to the thing? Yeah. Obviously he's still got that competitive drive in him. He still thinks he's good enough. He probably is. But they've actually have had a game with him. by the time of this recording against C9, which is the first place team.
Best of 3 they lost.
Best 3, yeah. But what was interesting, okay, so I came into this, I just saw after the game, I saw them interviewing Doublelift. I was like, what, they actually won? Sweet. And he was just talking, and they were like, yeah, I think we're doing really well. I think a great chance. Like, wow, they won. The way he was talking, I was like, geez, how do they do it? It's like, yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. I think we can really do it. Like, next week we've got Envy. They should be pretty, I wouldn't say free, but we should win. And everyone's like, oh, Doublelift. Someone in the chat was like, free. I was like, wow, I can't believe they did. They beat C9. They did it. Wow.
Yeah.
We were so triumphant after this game. He's like, yeah, I know it wasn't that great in the second game, but, I'm glad to be back. I'm like, God, then I checked, they lost 2-0. Like,
yeah, I mean, I do think Doublelift, I think we kind of underestimated him a little bit. I think he's certainly just the step away from seeing, like we talked about, remember we were talking about like him kind of saying it's ridiculous that people live in the same household together. Like he kind of got a bit of a different perspective on the whole pro scene. I feel like he's kind of seen it as more of what it is, which is not like dependent on every win and not dependent on more of like, again, yeah. I think first of all we underestimated the whole competitiveness that he has and that the drive to compete, because like clearly he just doesn't care about solo queue. Like we view solo queue as to an extent like the highest level of competition that we can go into. Ranked is like our level. It
is the game that we
play.
play.
Yeah, it's the game to play. But like clearly he's just kind of like playing solo queue and grinding it, and we kind of figured he kind of get bored of the game and maybe keep playing it, or maybe he just kind of like use it for money, or maybe he just kind of mess around like a lot of other streamers have. Like PewDiePie kind of just, I think his whole stance in the game is just way more relaxed than it would ever been before. I think Doublelift's stance in the game certainly got more relaxed, which might lead to him not caring as much about certain losses. But I also do think, yeah, definitely. I think it's like an attitude that I never would have seen before. Is just that like, yeah, I'm good to be back. Like actually enthusiastic about playing the first team
Yeah,
again.
it was. But it felt a little. I felt a little bit like he. I didn't get good vibes off it like that. Honestly, maybe I'm reaching a bit, but I didn't get good vibes. It's kind of like he's a superstar here. He's like doing the team a favor by coming in. Like, I give it another football analogy, because I love my football analogies. Manchester United started last season, brought this player in Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who was this, he's 35 now, but he's been kind of this big famous player for ages, incredible. He's finally comes to England. This age, everyone was kind of thinking, maybe he'll just come, he'll think he's like, I'm Zlatan Ibrahimovic, I'm bigger than the club, I'll do you a favour by coming. He'll treat it as like a retirement, he won't care enough. But he wasn't, he came and he just like drove, and he's done really well, and he's been trying really hard, and always, even though he's 35, he's won everything. I feel like Doublelift coming into Team Liquid, there might be the sense that he has played for bigger teams, he has played for teams that were more cohesive, because he did play for CLG for a while, but he has played for teams that are down the dumps, like this Liquid team. But when you come straight back in, he's on the team that's dead last place. Like he's happy to be back now. What if they lose to Envy next week? Like what if they, or even the game? Every game could be tonight. Actually, sorry, yeah, it probably is. CLG actually playing right now against C9, so I wonder how we'll do there. But I don't know. I kind of felt a bit. It felt a little bit like. He knows his status anyway. Obviously, he does know his status, but we'll see how he does. Hopefully, he does well, because I do like Doublelift.
It's a problem. It's like a big problem with like Piglet when he originally got moved to Liquid was just the ego and just the inability to accept that like he was never at fault. Like, and I mean, I still think he has a pretty large ego. Piglet. I think it's been his primary problem in terms of dealing with the losses Liquid have gotten in terms of like the blaming, like Matt blaming who's the top laner. Lorlo and stuff like, and him and kind of Dardoch having that like whole arguments over like who's at fault, who's to blame, all the blaming. Like I do think ego is definitely a huge problem. As you can listen to our previous listen to our last episode. What is it? 2022 of the Powder Keg podcast.
Powder Keg podcast. Yeah, that was Piglet. That's Doublelift anyway. So well, best of luck to him. Hopefully he does well. Hopefully they win their games.
CLG.
And the CLG were currently playing. They were doing pretty well when I left. They were like...
they always do well, though, up until the point...
They literally do every game. Smithy gets first blood. He gets another kill then. And then he dies like 4 times really stupidly and they lose the game. It's like, Smithy's really good at getting first blood and then he just loses. Like,
I mean, I don't know what to say in terms of like the actual like tactics of CLG, but I always feel like when I'm watching CLG, maybe it's because I'm biased like for them. I want them to win. I always feel like it's such an uphill battle. Now, I feel like everything we do is like the goal lead is still like even. It's like we're 4 kills up, but like it's just no.
And then they just get caught out randomly. Darshan tries to go for stupid dive.
I feel like
Smithy
it's like
all the time.
Like I feel like the team with the cohesion they have shouldn't have that like almost ticking time bomb of like they're gonna mess it up, however long the game goes. Especially versus teams like I don't want to say C9 because obviously C9 are dominating right now the split, but like other worse teams like Dignitas and stuff, like they shouldn't be.
So many
it shouldn't be oh no, so the Dignitas have reached their late game, like with the who's even on Dignitas? Like it's just
they do make way too many individual errors. It's surprising for a team that should be kind of consistent and solid. Considering how long they played together, some of which, particularly Smith this season, he just makes all these crazy big errors.
And I guess attitude only goes so far, and team cohesion only goes so far if people are making all these individual errors.
Yeah. So
anything else interesting this week? Galio rework has been released. I mean, it was released last week.
See, when Owen says, this is a bit of an issue between me and Owen, when Owen says something's been released, okay, the traditional when you say something's been released, you mean it has been released.
A fairly big
in general. When Owen says something's been released, he means a trailer of something has been released. So never ask Owen about, like, if a movie trailer's been released or not. He'll just be like, oh, yeah, dude, Kill Bill 3 got released, man. It's like, Kill Bill 3 trailer just came out.
Film is completely different to a leak or a rework or a preview. If I say, oh, look, the new patch details have been released, I don't mean they've been, like, unloaded onto the live server. I think Robin will agree completely with me if I say, hey, the new trailer was released. The new.
Okay, he says new Galio has been released. So he hasn't been released, and you just can't. You won't let this up.
So I've said, let's say before, the first time this came up was, and I'll let our viewers know, please. If I've ever asked you to comment or to say anything on anything in the videos before, if you've gotten this far, I've gotten 10 minutes into the video at this point, please just comment and just say Andrew's wrong, because I mentioned before. So this was back when the Assassin reworks were being released. And so Rengar one came out, and obviously dear to my heart, I was like, Andrew, the Assassin reworks have been released. I think, and Andrew was like, Owen, they haven't been released. Like and he was just like shitting all over me. And I was like, dude, they've been released. He was like, oh, I mean, they're on PBE, and I mean, they've been posted by Riot onto their. And Andrew was like, and then Andrew was doing stuff. I think it's perfectly reasonable.
You know what it's called when a game goes on sale? The release date. Before then, they can release trailers, they can announce details.
When it's info, like when... Okay. We're not going to talk semantics here. We're not going to just discuss...
This is nothing to do with League of Legends.
I think it's perfectly reasonable to say that, let's say, a rework has been released when it's not actually on the live servers.
That's you and you alone, man. So, the new patch came out. Some interesting stuff. They nerfed the hell out of some of the ADs, specifically Varus. And they nerfed the items, and they nerfed Death, Fire Touch, and do we really care about patches to talk about that much?
Not really. Again, I think like lethality is still pretty strong. A lot of people were saying that Edge of Night is a weaker item, which I think is perfectly reasonable, seeing it was completely broken. And it was just like a 20-second, it was a 10-second shield on a 20-second cooldown, which is like, okay, every 10 seconds I have a shield. So yeah, like items that should have been situational have been nerfed, I think, to the point where they are situational. It's supposed to be just like, I build Edge of Night, Yomu's, Duskblade every single game. I mean, I haven't played an awful lot in the last couple of days, so I don't know exactly what the impact it's had. The games I have played, people have been building the same items. I haven't really noticed the huge difference. I'd say it'll kind of slowly progress in win rates and stuff.
Interesting. Actually, most interesting about it is they nerfed exhaust, finally. Like, for how long has exhaust been so blatantly overpowered? Everyone's commented on it. Scar's commented on it like every game.
Yeah, as an aggressive
reduced MR, reduced armor, reduced damage, reduced attack speed. Like,
yeah.
And ridiculous.
Ignite has always been on supports on any champion. Such a risky take for
Like, whoa, you're going Ignite, man.
And then you see a fight come out bot lane, and it's like, oh, they exhausted, and the exhaust beat Ignite because they're level 3 already, and Ignite's no longer better than exhaust. I definitely do feel that the nerfs were also
I didn't mention slows as well. Sorry, I didn't mention that.
Sorry, but the nerfs basically they reduced the attack speed, but debuff was just why does it have an attack speed debuff?
You have it, yeah.
It's meant to be I mean, it's the equivalent of Ezreal's of W having an attack speed. It's why does it have that? There's no real reason for it to have that. And then it also reducing the most ridiculous reducing resistances of the aggressive champion to try to I mean, maybe reducing a percentage of total AD and AP would be okay, well, if we want to reduce it. Because the whole point is it's a defensive summoner. And having something like that is I 100% love that nerf.
I remember when they added those things. Well, I don't remember when it was, but I remember them adding all that stuff into them. I'm just whoa, they're overloading this spell. And this haven't touched phrase we'll make an assassin update. We'll create all these assassins. And Scar starts saying, why are you making an assassin update and making all these new sexy assassins when you're keeping exhaust in the game? Why should I play these champions? So that is me. I've been playing a ton of Radiant Sol recently. So playing against a bunch of buffed assassins with a really bad exhaust. Actually, it's still pretty good for what it should be against. Yeah, so it's just not on someone like Aurelion.
I think it's definitely worse bot lane, which I think is good because the attack speed. But the attack speed was also it wasn't fun. It was like frustrating because you just felt like you were just like you were literally underwater. It was like, oh, the attack, and then just the auto just won't go off, and it's like, and then they kill you, and it's like, oh, okay, that's frustrating.
Yeah,
So,
do you want to talk about Galio a little bit? Did we even talk about it? Yeah, we started talking about things being released and said we're such idiots. So new Galio didn't get released, but the
info is on
his abilities have all been released.
Yeah, and his obviously all the skins and all the stuff, all the info is on PB and all that.
Yeah, so the coolest thing definitely is his ultimate, where he literally just leaps. It's like the things are always less interesting when you reduce them into the precedent that already exists. So what it is that he sees an ally in danger, he leaps up in the air, like, shoom, and then flies down and
like
slams into the ground where they are.
Ultimate.
That's what I mean. When you reduce things to precedent, it gets less. It's like it's actually a bit like Pantheon ult, and then it's also a bit like someone else's ult.
It's hard to create something totally unique.
What did Giovanni called it like he's a bit like Shen ult as well. It's like Shen ult makes rid of Pantheon ult. Giovanni. Yeah, I was saying Giovanni's name wrong. It's got no I in it.
Yeah, we were laughing about it afterwards for a while.
We were laughing about it.
Giovanni.
We were all cool about it. Tensions got heated after, but we ended up laughing about it. But yeah, so Galio looks pretty sweet, and they put his old ult onto like his W, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, it's like more of a charge, and it's he looks like he looks definitely like more of a tanky kind of Malphite champion.
He's a bruiser vanguard type thing.
Yeah, which I think is totally fine. I think there aren't that many like AP bruisers. I think most of them are AD at this point. I think bruiser is kind of a word that you immediately associate with like building like Black Cleaver and stuff. So think like an AP like kind of. I mean, I guess he's probably more going to be like a pure tank, but like. I do like the idea that maybe he build like a Roa, or maybe build like a what's the other item builds out of Catalyst sort of a thing, like build kind of almost Malphite like or Maokai items. Like remember old Maokai used to be kind of like a bruiser, but he was AP.
Yeah, people used to get Roa,
and he was so fun to play against as well. With his,
I miss Maokai.
Slow damages and
doesn't do enough damage. He doesn't one shot me quick enough.
Yeah, no, but definitely I think champion looks cool. I think Galio before was just stupid because it was just like in one particular circumstance there'd be a Galio main who play versus your team, and your team consists of all dot champions and they're all AP, and it's just like okay, I guess why has he played this champion so much?
Remember I spammed him for a bit not that long ago, but it's not the best.
Yeah, it's a goofy ass champion.
One of those champions that needs a full go over, and he's getting it.
And I mean like to talk about how he looks like his gatekeeper skin. His legendary skin looks so cool, and the splash is like he's like huge, and you don't realize how cool it looks until you actually see this like these tiny figures in the forefront of the picture, like on like a little bridge, and he's just like massive, and it's super cool.
Scale birds is what they call them.
Yeah,
from Magic card art. An artist mentioned this once, like because they're drawing these things on like Magic the Gathering on the cards. They draw this like thing, but it's like, how can you tell this bird or this dragon is giant? It just looks like a dragon. It could be any size. So they'd always add little like flocks of birds around. So you'd always see this. So whenever you see an art like that, to get the scale of it, you look to see like tiny people put down or tiny birds or something. Then you actually get an idea of how big the thing is.
Yeah.
It's probably the most wisdom you'll get from this awful pre-show today.
Well, again, as I said before, if you're still watching this and you're frustrated with the level of discussion, you should have pressed that.
It's your fault, honestly.
You put yourself
through this.
Like, in all fairness. But yeah, do you think else to talk about before, or are we just directly onto the main topic?
I will say that I have actually been playing again, and I'm almost finished my placements for this season.
Did you play any more ranked games? Because
I played 2.
Remember we tried to play ranked games together. We weren't allowed to.
Yeah, we're now different ranks. Jesus, I don't know what the hell I'm going to go with these placements. What rank I'll be. I will still advertise the show as 2 Diamond 5 players because I was last season. I finished it. I just haven't played this season. So
add a little asterisk beside it. Previously Diamond 5, or not currently Diamond 5.
No, we'll just blatantly lie. It's fine, and no one will know despite us just saying it on the show.
Yeah,
so the main show today.
Yeah, so the main show today is talking about champion pools. So actually, interestingly enough, we originally did this topic. It was one of our first ever topics done before we kind of fully got together a decent schedule for the Patagon podcast and a decent kind of format for how we were going to record them and produce them. So we didn't actually release it because it was an absolute mess. Like it was us like at a kitchen table, like laughing and snorting, and I don't even idea.
We don't laugh anymore.
We don't snort either.
Only Owen snorts.
Yeah, so it's definitely a topic that we've been through an awful lot, and I think is a topic that we touched on before in the previous episode. We did touch on champion select. I think it was
champion pool.
Champion pool. Sorry. champion pool is involved in Champions Select.
Very true.
But yeah, we touched it on previously for about 10 minutes at the end of an episode. I forget exactly what episode it was. We basically checked this when we were thinking about talking about it again, because I feel like it's something that is always kind of coming up and it's always relevant, and I feel like we haven't really gone in depth enough.
Yeah, like you go into Summoner School, the thread I like to go into is the simple answers and questions thread. And so many of those are like, what champion should I play?
Which
or
champion should I play?
whichever, if I want to carry in bronze, what champion should I play? If I want to carry in gold, mid, what champion should I play? My AD carry plays this thing, what champion should I play? How many champions should I be playing? What roles should I be playing? And like, I think a lot of the time when we make this show, we're like, we kind of assume viewers have some level, they share our kind of way of thinking about the game to some extent. When you go into threads like this and you realize just how many players aren't even at that kind of like starting level, they don't really see where we come from. So in a way, this episode will be back to basics in some ways, in just how you should fundamentally look at your champion pool. And in a way, that extends kind of how you should be being ranked and stuff. Yeah. And from that, you're building up and then you're getting to a solid idea of how you should be doing. And it's a very core topic. And we want to just go through it all, do a whole show on it. And you can just refer back to this show and it'll be evergreen. Like this show should be applicable at any time. It's not going to be like, dude, just pick fucking Jin, dude, he's broken right now. Shit, yeah. Like it's just like this is wisdom that you can bring with you throughout your kind of league time.
And just to reiterate as well that like in kind of our original concept of the show and original few episodes, I think we were more focused on win rate as opposed to kind of just like general mentality and general discussion around kind of things surrounding the game. This is going to be returning very much to a more concrete kind of win rate oriented. And I mean, we have talked about an awful lot and this is something that we definitely say at the start of the show, so as we don't have to constantly kind of errata everything with that. But if you want to have fun, like this episode is going to be very much focused on, if you want to have the highest win rate, this is how you do it. If you want to maximize the win rate, this is how you do it. If you're having fun by doing whatever you want, and what you're doing contrasts completely to what we're suggesting you do, keep doing what you're doing. The game is for fun. But again, winning is also fun, and what we've been like, the whole show is about improvement and about getting better and about winning ultimately. So, if you want to listen to that and you want to improve, then don't be disagreeing and being like, oh, it's not fun,
these are suggestions for. There always should be prefaced in your head by, if you want to maximize your win rate, do this.
Yeah.
We suggest this. If the way you're doing is fine, if you like playing 7 different champions in every role on fill every game, then if that's what you enjoy doing and that's why you play the game that way. But with the Predicate Boys, we're looking to make you improve the most, we're looking to help you win the most. That's purely what this episode will be on. And so don't come shouting and saying, yeah, well, guys, don't go coming to us, all right? When you go out there and you're like, what? Don't feel personally attacked by this, basically.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. So just to start off with, again, this is gonna be like baby steps to start off with. We're just going to say basically what champion pool is. Champion pool, in its essence, is the pool of champions, the number of champions that you have and that you take with you into Champion Select with the kind of predetermined idea that these are the champions you're going to pick, right? So if my champion pool consists of Orianna, Syndra, and Lee Sin, chances are I'm going to Champion Select, I'm picking mid-jungle, and I'm picking those 3 champions in whatever role I get, right? So that's what your champion pool is. Just to start off with, I think it's really important to do. Say, next of all,
So
what's the importance of having a predetermined champion pool, first of all?
Okay. Yes, that's a good one. So I think going to some general kind of theory of ranked here, just a slight, we haven't been focused too much, but basically when your win rate in ranked, right? You think of this as over a very long term, and you should. So individual games aren't that important, right?
But that's what often people focus on, is the individual games.
But that said, individual games to an extent do matter if they become a habit. So let's say you're playing with internet that disconnects like now and again. That might manifest itself as you having a full disconnect every, let's say, 10 games or something. For a long period of time, that's a lot of losses, because win rate, it doesn't take many differences in win rate or in losses and wins to kind of adjust your win rate one way or the other.
Well, if you think about it as in, if you would normally have a 60% win rate, but you disconnect 1 every 10 games, that 60% win rate is now dropped to, 50%?
You'd be surprised how much it drops.
Completely reduce any improvement you have. And 60% is a huge climbing rate as well.
So basically from that is a big thing in ranked is that giving up free games is a really big deal. It's not something you want to do. You work really hard for your wins, and when you lose, you want it to be because either you had an off game or something, or you want ideally to be because variance went against you despite your fact you play well. You don't want to lose free games. And one big way to have free losses, I'd say probably one of the biggest ways, is that people just play champions in ranked they aren't fully comfortable with. They play champions in ranked that maybe they're like 80% on, or maybe they're like 70-60% on. Owen's got a fetish for this. Like, he's just picking like something goofy, picking like Ezreal mid, picking like something top, and they're like, yeah, but I won this game I played on, or because it's like that's just like if you want to, it's generally in a long term, you're always way less likely to win if you're picking something like this.
Sure.
It might make you win one game or another, but having this important thing about having a very defined champion pool, being very disciplined in how much you stick to your champion pool, is that you will maintain a much higher win rate purely by the fact that you're sticking to these champions you know you're comfortable on, you know you're solid on, and you can expect a certain level of performance every time you go into ranked with them.
Yeah, and so we're going to talk about exactly why that is, and we're not just going to say you will have a higher win rate if you choose Sword Champions, end of episode, continue on to the next episode. No, we're going to go into more detail on exactly why you have a higher win rate by picking a smaller number of champions in your pool. But I mean, we're going to kind of go through it categorically here. So I think the first kind of heading we can go through is role here, because Champion Select is no longer just about picking your champions, right? Champion Select is about picking your roles, and then that will kind of transition into picking your champions, right? Because, you know, we now live in a team builder world, praise Riot, where we can choose the two roles that we prefer, and we suggest that you choose two roles. You do not choose Phil. Just straight up, don't choose Phil if you want to maximize your win rate. I'm sure if you look at the majority of players, people who pick Phil have on average a lower win rate. Just naturally, by the nature of the fact that they're not going to be as good at 5 roles as they could be at 2 roles if they focus all their attention on those 2 roles. So the first thing is really role. And so the first question you really see on Summoner School is, Andrew, what role is best, Andrew?
Because I want to carry. Because I want to carry. I want it.
I'm Silver 3. My name is Owen.
And I want to be able to carry. I want to be able to carry. So what we would say to this is that there's two things that come to mind. So let's say you want to pick your role, okay? Somehow you're in a fresh situation, and people just seem to want to pick their role, right? Or there are 2 roles in this situation: your main one and the one you might occasionally have to back up with. Yeah. You're doing this for one way. It's like, what are you naturally gravitating towards? And this is probably the biggest one. When you play a normal, what do you enjoy doing? What do you find yourself leaning towards? If this changes a lot, there should be one that's kind of standing over both the other ones. And this is just kind of what you're naturally going towards. It's not much, this isn't just hard science here, but it's what you feel kind of yourself going towards. And the other aspect is how well you're doing on your roles. So if you're naturally gravitating towards top all the time, but you find that when you play top, you just die to the jungler every single time you try to go aggressive. If you find you're gravitating towards jungler because you enjoy kind of the idea of, you know, going around the map, killing things, but you just like cannot contest objectives because your ganks just don't work out, you don't communicate with things. Like, maybe you shouldn't be going jungle, even though you kind of gravitate towards it if you find you're getting bad results there. But when you play support, you're just killing it. Like, you're always getting confidence and ready to carry. You're always you're just winning games, you're controlling vision well. Maybe you could learn to enjoy support because you're so much better at it. Maybe you should just try and support as well. So it's like the 2 things to keep in mind when you're trying to choose a role. Firstly, what are you gravitating towards, and then secondly, how well you do in that role.
Yeah, and again, I think people listening might be like, but Andrew, you've just said that we're not going to be talking about enjoyment. We're not going to be talking about what we find fun in this episode. We're going to be talking about cold hard facts. Cold hard facts, Andrew. But actually, in reality, an awful lot of kind of, I think, improvement. Again, it's all self-directed. I think it's hard to direct yourself and to focus yourself and to seek to improve if you're not enjoying what you're doing. Like, I mean, we're not going to say, pick mid. I don't care if you like to play support. I don't care if you like to play AD. Mid is the best role to carry. Pick mid. Every single player not actually playing mid. Only mid. And you'll climb faster than you'll be playing any other role. I don't care if you hate yourself. I don't care if you hate your life. Pick mid. No, because it's impossible to obviously improve and to play and to enjoy the game. And through playing the game is how you improve. So it's possible to do that if you don't like the role to a degree. So again, Andrew was saying like kind of intuitive. Like, if someone asks you, hey, what's your favorite role? What's your best role? I mean, again, we said role kind of is a prerequisite to picking your champions. Not really. You can kind of go either way. You can pick your champions and then see what roles they fit into, see what roles are natural. Like, look at your opportunity, look at what champions you play most, look at what champions you kind of like. From a purely win rate a kind of point of view, we're not going to suggest you pick any new champions. Again, this is kind of moving on to champions from roles. They're kind of, I think, more interchangeable than we kind of say. We can put them roles and then champions, but I feel like they're kind of interchangeable. We wouldn't suggest you go out there and go picking completely new champions, picking things completely new. Similarly, we wouldn't suggest that you go and choose, mid is the best role. Even though I've only played area carry and support, mid is the best role. I need to pick only mid. No, look at what champions you've played, look at what roles you've played. Pick. Okay, so we're going to prerequisite by roles. So pick what roles you've played and you're comfortable with and you enjoy playing. Because I assume if you've gotten to the stage that you've been playing the game for as long as you have and you're watching an episode of a podcast about the game, then I assume we've enjoyed some aspect of the game. So what aspect of the game was that? Was it only ARAMs, then only play ARAMs? But we're not going to be talking about that in this. We're going to be talking about what role in ranked 5v5 you enjoy or you gravitate towards.
And like similar to how we don't give up free games, as I said earlier with the champion things, you don't give up free games by playing different roles. So do have that clear idea of what roles you're good at. If you feel like maybe you feel like playing a few games, like maybe I want to switch to top lane, then play some normals top lane, because you'd be surprised about how much not champion specific but role specific knowledge you have if you get used to a role. I found that big time with mid lane. Just when I play mid lane, the way I understand how the map works, the way I understand when to roam, when to ward, things that transcend what champion I'm playing. So very much their role knowledge is very much a thing. You're not the perfect player who understands every role because you're just in tune with the game. You very much do have knowledge restrained to certain roles. Like when I try to play jungler, I have no idea what's going on because I just don't play jungle.
Yeah.
I can play loads of champions in the jungle, but that do jungle, and sure I can play them as a champion,
good,
but it just makes no fucking difference because I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know when to ward, I don't know when to go to scuttle, I don't know the timings. Different intuition things built up in different roles. And so we'll go on to champions then. So, I want to say something. Yeah, so the idea of if you get autofilled, or if you let's say you're just not comfortable at all with your secondary role, or you get autofilled to support, and you don't ever play support, or you get autofilled to another role, or you just get some role, or your champions get banned, just dodge. Like don't be afraid to dodge. People are so afraid to dodge. Dodging does not lose you anything tangible because LP, if you want to go into maths of it, doesn't actually matter for your rank. It doesn't matter for your win rate, which is, your win rate is ultimately what matters. Your rank won't be adversely affected by dodging ever. It'll even out with your MMR. Your secret MMR is what matters.
Also, I mean, on most fundamental, you can't drop a division by dodging. It's impossible. Yeah. So I mean, just like even if in your mind you are attached to the fact that you are gold 5, you're plat 5, you're D5, even though your MMR might be way higher, even if you're so attached to that fact that you don't want to dodge, you can't actually drop a division through dodging. You can only drop it from losing a game. So
dodging really doesn't, apart from obviously the time. If the time matters to you, the time matters to you. But you might be spending, as we said earlier, you don't want to give up free games. And if you're trying to play support and you just don't know how to play support properly, don't just be like, like what streamers do, where they'd be like, I'll just play Bard this game, or whatever. Don't be like that. If you want that win, then just dodge and just queue up again, and then hopefully you get your role. If you don't get your role, there's nothing wrong with dodging again. If you have the time to spare, if you don't have the time to spare, it's different. But very much in terms of win rate, people are way too scared to dodge in League. They really should be dodging more often, honestly. Oh, it's similar if you get, obviously, it's complete tangent. If you get someone who's like flaming all the time, you're just like, this person isn't going to try. Yeah. Or they pick some crazy role. They try to go like something like Draven Jungle because they're so pissed off. You're just dodge the flipping game. Like,
and I mean,
it's grand.
And I mean, like, this isn't even like specifically relevant to champion select, to champion pool or anything. It's not related at all. It's just related to kind of, we are discussing your win rate and maximizing your win rate, and this is all to do with champion select. So I guess it is kind of a champion select podcast almost more than a champion.
Owen was right all along with champion
select.
We're
talking about roles. We're talking about So yeah, I mean,
okay.
just dodge the game. Similarly, kind of, we're going to kind of talk about like we've already said, less roles are better than many. We actually have written down here that solo queue is a sledgehammer, not a needle.
Yeah, go into that line. That's my line, Owen. So this is about. So you kind of you were through. So we're going to champions now, not just roles. And the main thing under champions is that you want fewer champions. You don't want more champions. You want
still relevant to roles.
Very, very small number. That, like, people ask, like, the classic question is, should I be one tricking or should I have a few options? To an extent, you probably should be one tricking. You don't need to define yourself if you're one trick, but you should have one champion that is what you're playing the vast majority of your games. If they get banned, or if like an impossible matchup comes up, or if something happens that you need to you get a different role, then you pick your secondary champion or your tertiary champion. Good word, isn't it? But you should really have it's really about, it's less is more in this situation. And the sledgehammer thing is basically that I think people are very influenced in how they view League of Legends by professional play. When you see professional play, you see they talk about, if he picks Azir this game, they might pick Varus to counter it, or if they get that good matchup, if they do this, so they'll be picking this instead. And people are like, oh, cool, I can outthink my solo queue opponents by learning like 7 different mid-lane champions, so I can outpick whichever, and depending on the situation, depending on how many divers they have, I can pick a Lulu instead, maybe, or something like that. And that's a cool way to think about the game. That's a fun strategy. But with Friday Fives are not about fun, as we said already. So really, honestly, solo queue is not really about these things. It's not about team game mechanics. It's pretty much each game comes down to how well you play. What was I saying in the chat? How well you play, how good you are at your champion.
Yeah.
Not much else. And then and how every different player plays. Like, how much of it's down to which champion picks? Very little. So it's the consistency of how you play your champion.
How often has like a composition in team select mattered towards the outcome of the game, besides maybe affecting the mentality of one of the teams. Like how often has your perfect Leona, Malphite, Alistair, AoE, Team Comp, Wombo Combo, like actually beaten the Quinn, all squishy, weird solo queue, annoying Teemo champions? They just demolished you, and it didn't matter. Like again, it's all a stuff. And I think what Andrew's saying is kind of the crux of our entire podcast, which is the idea that it's not like you're not fine threading this needle of like thoughts and like outthinking, and I don't need mechanics. I can just mentally be supreme at the game and kind of outthink. Like it's a game of chess.
It's how you picture Monte Cristo plays the game.
Yeah. So I mean, like when we actually originally were talking about champions, like we kind of went into all these details about kind of the strengths of having many champions versus the strengths of having one champion, and it kind of came down to, well, if you're able to play multiple champions, you're able to exploit all these different strengths in different positions. Whereas if you play one champion, you can just exploit them completely in all their strengths, and you can just use their strengths in every possible situation they come to. And I mean, ultimately, it was like, well, this is just worthless. Nobody cares about all these different tiny little minute fine threading of abilities that counter and you know, ricochet and rapier and whatever, all these stupid stuff that doesn't matter whatsoever, as opposed to the fact that if you're just a Mumu one trick and you pick a Mumu, jungle every single game, and you do well every single game as a Mumu jungle, and you climb, like it as Andrew said, it's so like brutal to an extent. It's not like, oh, like the thought process behind League of Legends, like we do like it's a very strategical game in the game, but in Champion Select, the strategy is very much just pick the role you're in, pick a champion that is relatively okay in the role you're in, and play that champion as well as you can, and play the champion that you can play as well as you can play, sort of a thing. Like it's not like a matter of abusing kind of the meta or abusing anything. Like, sure, meta is important because obviously the fact that the 5 roles work the way they do, that's the best way to play the game, the most efficient way to play the game. You don't want to go picking Teemo, whatever, 80 carry or friggin' fiddlesticks top lane for the most part, because it's just not going to work out for you, because that isn't successful. But if you pick a champion that you can play in a role, doesn't matter what the matchup, doesn't matter how awful the matchup is, if you can play that champion, it's going to always give you a higher win rate than if you play Varus mid versus Azir and you've never played Varus before.
Yeah, because like imagine you do pick it, maybe like let's say you pick like Riven top every game. I don't spend too long on this point, but let's say you pick Yasuo top every game. You're a very good Yasuo player. And like, sure, picking that Yasuo when they happen to pick the Riven top lane feels bad, and those games maybe you'll drop a little bit below. But that game you might lose a bit of equity on. You're gaining in all the other games, and you're just consistently playing Yasuo. You know how to play Yasuo. You learn how to play the different matchups. If you're trying to outthink but think, oh, they picked Riven, so I'll pick my Malphite instead. Maybe your Malphite just isn't as good. Maybe your Malphite is 70%. Like in that matchup, your 100% Yasuo will just do better, even though it's a bad matchup compared to Malphite's better matchup.
Yeah.
So that's just on that point and the things. I think one interesting thing I have down here, I called it fetishizing a fresh start. I think a lot of people love the idea of saying like, guys, I'm just going to clean it like a spring clean. I'm going to clean out my champion pool, start again. Yeah. What I need, 3 good mid laners, 3 good top laners, blah blah blah. And it's like, you don't really want to do this too much. I think people love this idea of like having this fresh start, picking the things. Yeah, people just want to kind of clean out.
Like we talked about it before, I want this champion to be my champion. I want to pick, wipe the slate clean. I want to reevaluate my champion pool. I want you to tell me what champion to pick. Like that's people who go on summoner school and they're like, absolutely. What champion should I pick? I'm a mid laner. What champion is the best, completely objective champion in the game, so I can just ignore anything that I've done before and just pick the most objective champion in the game. I can learn them and be the best in the game. It's like, well, you know, there is no objectiveness to you playing the game, because you playing the game is subjective. It's subjective.
Your play is subject to your previous experience.
So we, from that perspective, do not pick a new champion that is flavor of the month, that is exciting, that is cool. I mean, this is from a win rate perspective. Sure, if you really enjoy this new champion and you want to play normals, sorry, we're not even mentioning this. Don't do that. Don't pick a new champion. Look at your champion pool and pick the champion that you, again, it's similar to role. Look at the champion that you've done best at, that you feel most comfortable on. That like if someone told you, what's your comfort pick? Like what's your good pick? What's your pick? You'd be like, oh well, I mean, I like let's say, I used the example when we were talking about this podcast before of like when you're with your bronze 5 friends and they want you to like carry, and you want to impress them. You're like, well, I'm going to whip out the, and I mean, on one hand, maybe you're going to whip out the Yasuo that you've never played a game on before and die horribly, but for the most part, pick the champion that you know you can consistently do well. And everyone has a champion like that. Everyone kind of has it at the back of their mind where they're like, yeah, that is kind of the champion that if I really wanted to play safe, I would pick. And that's the champion you should pick. That champion, and you should focus on that champion, and you'll climb.
Yeah, and we talked about ego last episode. And there's one big thing that ego leads League of Legends players into thinking. And I think that one of the biggest things ego leads League of Legends players into thinking is that even though they're silver, even though they're bronze, even though they're gold, they think, I can play Vayne, or I can play Yasuo, or I can play Zed to a high level. It's like, no, you can't. You ever listen to Last Shadow saying this? He basically says, if you aren't like Diamond 4 plus, don't pick these champions.
Yeah.
You don't have the mechanics to play these champions. You may have the chance to play into like 50% win rate level. You may have chance, but if you just spend all that time and put it on Annie mid instead of Zed mid, you're going to climb. You're going to do so much better.
Look at Annibot, like his mechanics aren't that good. Like he's like an average. I don't want to like shit over. I know that she's a great guy, but like I do think that's a pretty good example. Like he's kind of just like pretty average. Like his Annie play isn't like insane. It's just so consistent that he's challenger. Like I mean, I think it's just the perfect example of the fact that one tricking is just like the key to success. That repetitive. Picking a champion that isn't, again, we don't want to keep talking about picking one champion. Here we're kind of talking about skill ceiling and skill floor, which is the idea that, you might have a champion that is your go-to pick. You might have a champion where you're like, yeah, dude, Zed is my champion, dude. I'm just always pick Zed. Like,
and then they have a 40% win rate and Zed with 200 games in ranked.
You have to just say, no, I have to let go, that's it. I mean, because if you want,
exactly.
Sorry, I'm not going to say.
You're not going to do it. He's going to do it there.
If you want to climb, drop Zed.
Just full on. Full stop. Zed, no qualifiers, honestly. Yeah.
I mean, like, people are always telling you this. I mean, literally, if you look on like Summoner School, but people seem to just constantly ignore it. And they're like, no, I'm different. No, I'm different. Like, you're not different. Like,
you think you're listening right now, you're saying, well, my Lee Sin is actually killer. The only reason I've got a 48% win rate with 400 games in ranked over 3 seasons is just because of variance. Like, no, there's just a reason to stop picking Lee Sin. Just like, stop doing it. He's affecting the situations, but it's just, it really annoys me because, and people really just, and it's such an ego thing, and everyone is false for it. And I literally saw someone in someone's Google asked, and he was the most extreme version, he's like, recommend me the champion with the highest possible skill ceiling. I want the champion that is the most difficult to master, but when mastered is the most powerful possible. And I was like, what rank are you? And they were like, well, I'm silver 4. But I was like, just like pick something easy. Just, and when you're wondering, you're probably listening to wondering what's easy. You probably have some idea, but stuff like skill shots avoid. Honestly, I'm sure you're great at skill shots. I'm sure you're great at the game, but just avoid the skill shots. Avoid the Thresh. Avoid the Blitzcrank. Avoid the Bard. My supporting. Instead of that, just pick something like the Malzahar support. Or Malzahar mid. The Annie mid. Support. Pick the tanks top lane. The tanks jungle. But this stuff is consistent because sure, there might be one game where you're playing Zed and you get a free kill in the jungle early and then you go off to carry, and if you'd been playing Annie, maybe you wouldn't have been able to carry that game.
Yeah.
But compare that to the 6 other games of Zed you're playing after that, where you fall for the jungle gank, where you mess up these different, because Zed is so difficult to play. All these different mechanical things throughout the game, things you don't realize you could do, not even just mistakes you make, but good things you don't do because you just can't understand the champion at that level. When you get to a high enough level in the game, then maybe you can start looking at these champions. But just don't do it until you get there.
This is the attitude. It's like, but the champion doesn't have a high skill thing. Like as in, it's like my rocket ship. It can only go so far if I hitch my whatever star of success to this rocket ship. Like yeah, but at that point, like, you're not just going to fall back down. It's not like it's a ceiling that you just bounce off. Like, maybe, let's say a Mumu, I mean, which is wrong. Maybe a Mumu is just, his skill ceiling is just not high enough to reach Challenger, which is like ridiculous. There are plenty of the Mumu players in Challenger. But maybe still just isn't high enough to outplay people in Challenger. So I want, sure, when you get to Challenger, I give you permission to play other champions. Like, at that point, you're not listening to us. Like, you're way better who's beating 99.99% of the Solo queue ladder by playing a Mumu. And again, it's like, every champion is capable of being played for the most part to Challenger. Yeah. If you focus on them. The skill ceiling is a really, like, deceptively, I think, obsessed about word. It's just like skill ceiling is only so high. Skill ceiling doesn't mean like elo ceiling. It doesn't mean like rating ceiling. It just means the skill complexity of the champion skills will just go into other things.
Like, why would... The basic thing is, why would you worry about any ceiling? Why would you worry about the height of a ceiling if there's no chance of you ever reaching that ceiling? When you walk into a room, you're like, oh, I hope the ceiling of this room is high. It was like, well, there's no chance you're ever going to hit the ceiling of this room. Don't worry, man, it's high enough. Like, sure, there might be a difference between 800 meters high and 900 meters high, but either way, you're not going to hit it. Yeah. Don't worry, guys. That sounds very kind of stupid Fight Clubby, sort of like demotivational postery sort of. But you won't. I mean, because you're not going to hit the ceiling. In reality, you're not. Sure, maybe you, listener, are going to be the next professional, brilliant player. If you are, that's brilliant. But the reason you're not going to not get there because you listen to this and you start playing Amumu instead. If you hit the Amumu ceiling, you won't need to listen to us anymore, because if you hit the Amumu ceiling, you will be challenger, or you will be at least high masters or something like that. Like, don't you worry about a ceiling that you're never going to hit. What you should be worrying about is the floor that you will likely be sitting on when you start to play this champion. Because the floor matters, because you'll be interacting with it. You won't be interacting with the ceiling much.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of like, you won't even be sitting on it if it's set. Like, you won't even be able to reach the floor, because again, like,
floating.
You'll be trying to, and you'll be dropping all those win rates. But I mean, another big question that people are always saying on Summoner School is when they stay attached to a champion that they want to pick, which is the question of, can this champion carry games? Can this
carry
champion
question
carry the game? I don't want a meager champion like a Moo. I want a carry champion. List me 3 carry champions that can carry my.
I don't want to sit in the background while my team takes all the glory. I want to be the one leading the charge, leading into the fray. I want to be the general in the front of the battlefield, taking the glory. The carry question.
I think we have to try not to sound
to make everyone is ridiculous because everyone wants us. Yeah,
we've gone through this many times before, and it is to us. It's kind of like we're whatever, kicking the old
beating
shoe or whatever. Yeah, whatever the old phrase is. But I mean, it is like. I mean, to an extent it is. We are kind of repeating an awful lot of stuff that's been said multiple times before, but I think it still is important to say it. So on the topic of carrying, carrying doesn't exist in solo queue to an extent. Consistently carrying doesn't exist. Carry champions are generally champions who have high variance in terms of their leads and them being behind, often leading to both them getting ahead in 50% of games and then getting behind in 50% of games. So it doesn't lead to them having a higher win rate, doesn't lead to them having a higher potential win rate. It doesn't lead to anything. For 99.99% of solo queue players. Sure, maybe when Faker is playing in low elo, he might pick a champion who has higher impact if they get this lead, because he can get this lead in 99.99% of games. But you're not going to get that lead in 99.99% of games. You're going to get that lead in probably 50% of games, which is not going to have any impact whatsoever. In fact, playing carry champions or focusing on carry champions will often lead to you having a negative impact.
Because they're too difficult. Because they're usually very high skill ceiling. There's Zed, their Fizz, or their... And what you're thinking as well, I can name all these situations where if I was a carry champion, I would win the game, and if I was playing something more supportive and more background oriented that's easier to play, I wouldn't win these games. That's absolutely true. What carry champions give you is they allow you to win games that other champions would never dream of being able to win. They allow you to take the game by the scruff of the neck, despite all the odds against you, despite all the things going wrong, despite your bot lane feeding, despite your top lane feeding. They allow you to win that game anyway. And after that game, you feel fucking great, and you feel, wow, I feel fantastic. I love this champion. I just got that LP. And then you go into the next game. And you're like, well, that was one game. And you're in the next game, and that situation doesn't arise. That situation doesn't arise very often. But it's a huge aspect of cognitive dissonance. And people just don't get variance. They don't get the fact that there are so many games where your teammates won't do well, when your opponents do extremely well. And as such, variance goes against you, and you lose the game despite you playing pretty decently to a high level. And carrying is like... It's like crying in the face of variance. You want to be able to discount variance. You want to be able to, I don't care about variance. I just want to be able to win anyway, because it's not fair. It's not fair that I'm losing this game. I want to be able to carry. That isn't ultimately how it works, because your win rate is over such a large sample size of games. Carrying games, you see all your games laid out like that, right? And you're like, this game I carried, this game I carried, this game I carried. Like 300 other games.
This game I lost because I picked this squishy ass high skill ceiling champion.
These
games,
games,
but I'm going to discount them when I focus on the champions I carried, and then I'm going to blame people for the other games I lost. Like, basically what we're saying is, sure, carrying champions can win games. We're not saying don't pick a carry champion. We're just saying don't let the fact that a champion is a carry champion affect your choice of champion. Choose only, because sure, there are low skill floor champions who are carry champions, like Yi and stuff. And I don't have a problem with people picking Yi in low elo. I think he's a very good champion to pick in low elo. But the point is that don't pick Yi because he can carry games. Pick him because you find him intuitive, you find him easy, and and you like to play him, sort of thing. Don't pick him because he's a carry champion. Never pick a champion because he's a carry champion, because carrying is a fallacy for 99.9% of players.
Like, implicit in it is the idea that the only reason you aren't climbing is because of variance. Because you're just saying, I want to be able to, but what you're getting is, I just want to be able to full control of my games. Because I'm so good, and if I'm in full control of my games, I'll be able to win those games. But in reality, it's just not. You're at the rank you are because you're at the rank you are.
Yeah.
It's not that just everything's going against you, and so you need to pick a carry champion. So it's got hard truth, but honestly, it is just applicable to just about every player. And as I said, like, carrying can be good and can be used in games, but what ultimately matters is combining a good win rate, like 55% plus, with a large sample size of games.
Yeah.
That is how you win. That's how you rise. That's how you rise ranks. It's not by winning this one individual game because I picked a really good champion.
Rise above.
Yes. So that's the carry question.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard. I mean, to just view your games as like a progression of like a slow, because each game is taking a chunk of your time, your focus, your energy, your devotion, and it's draining. It can be draining, but just it is less draining if you get the ability to, and this is kind of not that related to champion stack, but if you just get the ability to kind of champion pool to step back and just go, this didn't matter because in the long run I played my best, I played consistently, I played better than my late opponent. Therefore, it was just unlucky that I didn't win, and that's it. And this isn't like unlucky, so unlucky, I didn't win that game. It's just
accepting variance.
It is unlucky. It's unfortunate. Next game, and not even unfortunate. It's just, well, that happens. It happens.
It's built into the game.
Yeah, it's built into the game. The natural process that in 50% of games your teammates are going to be worse than the other team, and it is up to you to outperform your late opponent in order to win games. And if you do that in the majority of your games, then in the majority of your games you'll win the games. It's very simple. That's just how winrate works.
And so, approaching towards the end now, there is the question of improvement is interesting, because you might find this fed kind of different to the usual. Because what we usually say is that winning in the short term isn't what matters. It's not what you should be focusing on. What you should be focusing on is improving. And if you focus on improving, the win rate will follow. And our biggest episode in this would be the revolutionizing ranked. I don't know what episode it was, but it's actually really good, and it's handy for that. And that is very true.
Revolutionized ranked, really.
But while you are improving, you might as well be winning. And that's what having a good solid champion pool is, just laying this foundation that you can work from there. So this isn't about, you're not discounting improvement. And one thing is, like, having a very small champion pool, to have a small focused champion pool, can actually help you improve.
Yeah, because, like, again, I use the example of Anibot and his kind of ability to kind of he plays the champion so much that it's just so casual, right? It's so just, he's not focusing on what he's doing. And I mean, you'll be like, oh, what? But you always sort of focus and stuff. And this is not what we're saying. But what I'm saying is basically that if you play a champion where the mechanics are down pat, your ability to use the champion's abilities in the right order and in the right sequencing, and you know what your champion does, you're able to focus on other things in the game. You're able to focus on vision, on map awareness, on playmaking, on lanes, on your opponents, on itemization, on all these things. And these are things that you can't focus on if you're struggling to learn how a champion's abilities work, how they combine, what items to build, because you don't know how to do that because you haven't played the champion enough. And just simply put, if you play one champion, you will get better at the game as a whole. And I mean, people often say, oh, one tricks in Challenger, they can't play in Challenger if they don't play their champion. Like, sure, but they can play to a much higher level than they'd be able to if they played multiple champions at a lower level and they just kind of muddled around. Because by doing that, they gained other abilities in the game, which are, on par with Challenger players. Because they would be able to play on Challenger players if only their mechanics were good. Because they have to have other abilities. You can't just play Challenger Annie player if you can use Annie's abilities in the right order. You get to that level because your map awareness is fantastic, all your playmaking, your decision making is fantastic, and you get that by focusing on one champion, and then you're able to focus on all these other things in the game.
And like, these other attributes aren't like these secondary, sideways, out of the way bits that maybe you learn along the way as you're learning the true thing. And the true thing is how to do insects really well, or the true thing is how to do really nice Z ult into W, into like shadow hits. And it's like, no, the Z bit, the insect bit, that is the 1% of the game. The other stuff isn't the other stuff. It's League of Legends. It's the 99% of the game. 9% of the game is your decision making, your ability to position in team fights, your ability to roam at certain times, your ability to ward at certain times, your ability to keep an eye on the map, your ability to trade. All these things, your champion will affect them, but they are fundamental League of Legends things, and they will not vary based on champion. Sorry, they will vary based on champion, but they will still be skills that will transcend different champions. And so you're still learning all these skills you're playing champion. Sure, if you're only playing any mid, you're not going to learn how to trade as a tank top, but Why would you never need to learn that? What you are learning are the fundamental aspects of the game from the perspective of an any mid.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you might be like, but the challenger players can pick any champion, and they have all those, other abilities and stuff. And yeah, and they'll be much better at a random champion. And this is why they're much better at a random champion. It's not because their intuition is far better when it comes to just learning how champions work and how they're designed. They're far better at random champions. Like, Faker can pick Olaf mid, not because he's just so intuitively great at what Olaf does. It's because his other things are so good. And the way you get those other things so good from a normal person's perspective is by focusing on one champion, and all those things will follow because you'll naturally be able to focus on them because you want to focus on that one champion.
Yeah, and to acknowledge the common wisdom here that's going against what we're saying. So the common wisdom here is that, and I'm sure you're all thinking it right now and thinking these guys are idiots because they're not saying this, is that if you play jungle, right, then you'll learn jungle timings. If you play some top lane, or you play... Jungle's a big one. If you learn how to play jungle, you learn jungle timings. Therefore, when you play mid lane, you'll understand the jungle more to an extent. That actually is true. Yeah. But what you should be doing is playing that jungle in normals, and then you can get an idea for that. And also, I think it's a bit overstated, as well as what people say, it's like learn other champions. And you learn other champions, you understand their trading patterns more. And I also probably agree with that to an extent. But like, I think really just
you also learn the trading patterns by just playing one champion against them multiple times. I mean,
because the matchup is almost more important than the things in itself, actually, which is very true. So like often I'll play against a champion that was like levels, like I'm playing against Heimerdinger, I play God knows how much Heimerdinger, and I was like, I wonder what he's going to do next. I have no idea, because I haven't played this matchup before. Because like, I'm from this, actually I would have, because I played so much Heimerdinger. So, but it is really about the matchup ultimately, and it is true, you definitely will gain knowledge you wouldn't otherwise gain by experimenting with other roles.
But it'll take so long. Like the amount of time it required to gain enough mastery on a champion to learn how a good player of that champion would trade against you in lane. Like think about how long that investment time.
It can be helpful to have some idea. I think it's like a couple games in normal just to see how the champion feels. You know what I mean?
We're talking about maximizing like time, efficiency.
Yes,
all of that is just
in ranked.
Yeah, is to play just one champion. Sure, yeah, of course you can play stuff in normals, have fun, do whatever you want, and sure, playing champions a couple of times, working out through their kit, learning basic jungle timings. These are all things really important to do.
Yeah,
but what we're talking about purely is when you go into rank. We're not talking about ways to learn about other aspects of the game in normals, in other things, ways to learn champions. Look at our previous podcasts, we talk about this stuff an awful lot. What we're talking about here is just what to do when you go into champion select and it's your time to select.
What is your ranked champion pool? Yeah. And that shouldn't
What is your ranked champion pool? What is your ranked role? How to approach ranked champion pool and role, and how that'll help you improve and get a higher run rate.
And before we close up here, there is one trap of the one trick, as I have down here. And that is I think a lot of you listening to this will have your one trick down. Like you are the Malzahar player, you are the Alistar support player, you are the Vayne player, fuck you. Like if you are these things, then like you probably already are like, well, sweet, I got that down. Sweet, I don't have to worry about anything.
I have all the jungle routes and all the playmaking.
But this is, I think a big thing is when you have, just to consider, if you are this one trick player, if you haven't been playing Stem for a long time, you need to sit down, particularly if you haven't ranked up in a while, if you haven't been improving a huge amount, you need to look actually fundamentally how you're playing this champion. Because one thing that happens when you do play one champion for a long time is that you build up bad habits. And you'll know this by playing with one tricks, and you're like, what the hell is this person doing? It's like, obviously they pick their TP, exhaust, Zara's top lane every game, but just because they're doing it doesn't mean it's actually correct.
And again, the point is that, as we said before, if you pick one champion, it enables you to focus on all these other things in the game. If you have been playing one champion and you have the mechanics down pat, then clearly the problem isn't the champion, isn't the mechanics. The problem is all these other things which are contributing to a win rate. So what you need to do if you've picked your champion, which is well done, first step to success, you've picked your champion, you picked your role, you've decided I want to focus on this champion, is now what you need to do is you need to say, well, am I playing this champion correctly, first of all? I may know how to play the champion well, I may know the mechanics and the skill order and all that, but am I building the right items? Am I do I have the right game plan for this champion? And this is the point where you basically go into opt.gg, you look at good players of the champion, look at challenger players of the champion, and you basically you mimic what they're doing. Because again, as you said before, picking a champion is the first step because you have the mechanics down, and that's a big problem with a lot of people in solo queue. But the other thing that you need to do is you need to be able to play that champion correctly, and you need to have all these other things. And this is the big step, because picking a champion, one tricky champion, know the mechanics of a champion, is like the fraction of solo queue. Is like the first step, because then all the other things are what make you a challenger player from a Go player. But just picking one champion and playing that champion is going to actually help you so much. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, just if you are the one trick, just be willing to kind of take out the engine and reassemble it and put it back in your car. Yeah. Because you need to be willing to go back to the drawing board, reconsider, sure, you are a brilliant Cassiopeia player, but if you've been playing Cassiopeia this long, maybe you're not improving that much, you can just look at a really good Cassiopeia and see what they do. And it's going to fundamentally challenge how you view the champion, how you're playing the champion. You'll see all the things you've been doing, all the wrong, all these bad habits you've been developing. Yeah. But as I said, if your champion site is fine, then you don't need episode 23 of the Powder Keg podcast, but maybe you do need episodes 1 to 22. Might be of use to you.
Yeah.
So
anyway, that's the podcast done for this week. So before we close it up, we'll just do a couple of shout outs.
Yes, shout out to producer Robin and producer Giovanni.
Yep. Producer? Giving
Executive.
them that title already?
What's Giovanni's title?
Associate media consultant.
Associate media consultant Giovanni. That's pretty good. That was Robin just got that off his head. We're on Twitter. Just follow us on Twitter. We're at PowderKegCast. A subscription on YouTube would be much appreciated. If you like to. If you
like,
leave
comment,
us
subscribe.
Yeah, if you leave us a review on iTunes, we would seriously appreciate it. It's the best way to get the podcast out. There's a link down below.
We actually got, just to mention as well, we actually got a couple of comments on the podcast last week, and a couple of them were like fairly critical and stuff, but we're actually totally okay with that. We completely welcome any comments, no matter how critical they are. And I was actually fairly, I was like, good, comments are good. And as we said before, any comments, like we said, like, comment, subscribe, please follow us on SoundCloud, all these things, leave us a review on iTunes. These are all really important, but also just like, even on the Reddit thread that we're going to post, please leave us a comment if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you thought it was garbage, if you thought we did something completely wrong, if you didn't like the wooden wall behind us, if you didn't like the way we sounded, anything. Any criticism is really appreciated because we're always looking to improve.
Yeah, we're always changing. We're always adding things in, changing things. We're trying to improve based on what feedback we do get. So,
So
as I said, we're also on SoundCloud. So for the audio version, if that's what you want, it's down there, and we'll release that every episode too.
Yeah, but that's all for this week. So hopefully we'll catch you next week.
Cheers.